Hey, welcome back to Two Big Guys Trade Stocks. I'm Dylan.
And I'm Vinny.
And today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people disagree with, that there is just as much risk on the NYSE as there is on China stocks, and this whole delisting nonsense across the board, not just BABA, is insane. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. If you guys like this and kind of entertaining stock market content of two stupid guys trading stocks and talking all things personal finance, by all means, give us a like and subscribe below. We'd love to have you along in this little venture of ours. With that, we'll get to it.
Two stupid guys trade stocks.
All right.
This looks like a great setup for a joke here. You know, these three guys walk into a bar. Who's paying the tab, huh?
That actually is a pretty solid joke. In an effort to not get yelled at by anybody, in addition to what I'm already going to say, I'm not going to answer that question. All right. All right. So, here's my pet peeve, Vinny. Everyone keeps on going on about how Chinese companies and everything is going to get pulled. No one's thinking about, one, if that were to happen, what world we would live in at that point. For some reason, everyone just thinks trillions of dollars leaving from the market is fine. I don't know. That one. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, up and up for smoke.
It doesn't make any sense. And we're going to talk about how there's also this kind of fallacy going around that Chinese companies have inherently increasingly more risk. There is some risk, but increasingly more risk than American companies. So let's get started. And I'm sure I'm going to trigger somebody. U.S. equity market value. Oh, you're going to be triggered?
Yeah, you're going to trigger me. I'm triggered already.
Triggered. Solid. So this is in millions. But the U.S. equity market, essentially, 53 trillion. Top 500 U.S. company markets are 42 of the 53 trillion, and then I have it broken down there, 28 to 22 trillion-ish on NYSE and the Nasdaq. All right.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Total China stocks on the U.S. market. This is as of March 22nd. 1 trillion, 1.4 trillion. Okay.
This is but a rounding error for the U.S. federal government at that point.
Close. The thing here is that this was like 3.5 trillion like a year ago, which was that's decent. It's about 15%
that's a considerable off
of the Nasdaq there. Here's a chart showing kind of over time the net NYSE and Nasdaq total market cap in trillions of dollars. That's a lot.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. 2018. All right. I was like, there hasn't been as much growth of the tech stocks compared to like kind of the old school NYSE blue chip kind of stocks.
Oh no, there's been a lot.
Few years, but this is only 4 years.
So it's 4 years. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Still, you can tell they're taking over market share even within that 4-year time period, which is impressive.
Wild.
All right.
So this is super interesting. This is a New York Stock Exchange. I'm getting to my point. The Nasdaq here, 26, 23. Steep drop off. These are the biggest exchanges on the planet. Shanghai 7, Euro, and then Shenzhen down here is 5. All right. Okay. Now I want you to consider this. We have 1.4, and as of like a year and a half ago, it was like 3 trillion in China stocks. Okay. And just to prove that I'm not making up these numbers, let me pull something up here. This is the Chinese companies listed on the major stock exchanges. It's 1.4 trillion here on May 5th, 2021. It was 2.1. It was more before that. And then you can scroll down to see the total market cap of all the big companies. All right?
Gotcha.
Okay. Now I'm making up the numbers. Some's going to say some crap. I don't know. So if China delisted all their companies, okay, 1.4 trillion to us may not be a lot. To them, that's a butt ton. Okay? Their whole market is 12.
Okay.
Imagine losing 2 trillion overnight. Just done.
By market you mean GDP? Is that what you're saying?
Well, market cap of the stock exchange.
Okay.
What? Go ahead.
No. I just was trying to put it in context as far as for what you were comparing it to.
It's market cap. It would absolutely have lasting consequences if they just pulled other companies, not to mention they lose all trust for foreign investment for the rest of the entirety of lifetime. Okay?
Yeah, it would take at least decades upon decades to rebuild that level of trust. That's
Yeah.
long been one of my kind of arguments against this is China is playing the long game. China wants to be the world power. The way you get to be the world power is by being kind of long-term steady and predictable. You know, that
Exactly.
right now they're going through this kind of early phase where they're having to adjust and make a lot of policy changes. But over time, you expect the rate of that to decrease and them to be able to be relied upon as being like a steady trading business partner, right? That's what their
Yeah.
goal is.
You can't just start pulling stocks off the market and pull off a couple $1 trillion. One, you get screwed. Two, your whole plan of, having a premier stock exchange and GDP and everything is done. But the whole point that I'm trying to make here is that there's a fear for Chinese stocks that is non-existent for American companies. So let's just go through the two big examples. You want to talk about Luckin Coffee?
Luckin Coffee. Luckin Coffee was interesting. So they basically pulled the old classic Enron scam. So they had business entities that were actually owned by Luckin Coffee, and that's where they were recognizing revenue is from. So it'd be like as if me, as Vinny, as 50% partner in Two Stupid Guys Trading Stocks LLC was getting you to pay me for something out of the same business account. It wouldn't make sense, right? Like it really,
Right.
like, we're just creating something out of nothing. They did that to a tune of over $300 million in sales.
Solid.
Yeah, just a
Now
little
I'm
bit.
confused. You just said the company Enron. Is it another Chinese company?
No. Enron
Oh.
was actually an American company. Yeah.
Oh.
Um,
Hmm.
there's a great book about it. It's called the Smartest Guys in the Room. If you want to read about it, interesting company culture for sure. And then basically created these business sub entities where they would hide losses. So it'd be like as if we created Two Stupid Guys Trade Stocks LLC 2, and we just put all of our losses into that entity, and then talked about how much money the primary company was making, and told everyone about that, and then sold shares based on that, even though we own this other business that's losing all this money.
It's actually making
Yep.
me nervous. It's exactly how I do my taxes. Diddy Global. Can you talk about that real quick?
So, Diddy Global, basically ride sharing company from China. The problem with them is that they were literally instructed to not list in the U.S. as their primary location for going public, and that's what they did. They completely flagrantly flaunted and ignored the governmental mandate, and since then they've had to pay a price for that. They've had restrictions in terms of their growth. They're now delisting from the NYSE and listing in Shanghai as their primary exchange. This significantly setting back their kind of growth trajectory because of this.
Right. And one thing I want to point out, even on this website that I showed you guys, the two examples that they use for why China is so, not secure and not a great idea for American investors, ride a hailing service Diddy, and then Luckin Coffee is right down here. Boom.
Perfect.
Great, right? That's the only two they
Yeah,
talk about, by the way.
I
Then
know.
there's these two. This is different under Trump's policy. You were no longer allowed to make investments in Chinese tech for certain things, so they were taken off. Not China's fault though.
Okay.
Directly us. Okay. China Hustle. This is super interesting. If anyone has ever read about it, a lot of people bring this up because they don't understand what they're talking about. But it's about how after 2008, essentially, you had kind of scumbag American investment companies that would use shady China companies to reverse list on the NYSE like overnight, get a bump, and then they get taken out. But we're the ones doing that using China. So it's no way making them look bad and us good. It's making both of us look bad. Um,
Huh.
you already talked about Enron. That's an
Yeah,
American company.
it
It's
was an
weird.
American company. You can still buy their coffee mugs on eBay if you're interested in a cool souvenir.
Oh, it's just weird because I thought, America was so safe. Oh
Yeah.
man, WorldCom.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
They recorded
Yeah. So
operating expenses as investments.
yeah,
Investments.
exactly. Yeah, they were considering them assets basically by having prepaid like a kind of airtime or talk time paid on other networks, and they were considering them assets and carrying them as assets on their balance sheet. Awfully reminds me of the way Netflix does their kind of accounting. So like, take that with what you will.
Ooh, shout out to
Yeah.
Netflix.
All right.
Tycho, the CEO, CFO, CLO, all not stole, borrowed hundreds of millions of dollars at a nil interest loan and just didn't say anything. There's more nuances to that, but that's a whole 30 minutes. You know this guy?
Oh, Bernie Madoff, huh? The Ponzi mastermind behind what was the ultimate total there? Like $50 billion, somewhere in that ballpark?
It was absolutely gross. But,
Yeah,
you know,
was it? It's a considerable number.
only risk in China, right? Jordan
Yeah, only risk in
Belfort.
China.
This is not a stock thing, but
Great movie though. Okay, I will tell you
fantastic
that.
movie.
Yeah, and he still does public speaking engagements. Maybe like if this channel ever gets 100,000 subscribers and we can afford it, maybe we can pay him to come on here for an interview.
I would never give him 1 cent. He is a scumbag. I don't understand how people forgot that he's a complete scumbag.
I'll bet you he's like giving a talk at Goldman Sachs since he's been out of prison.
Probably. Theranos, it was not publicly traded. There's a show on Hulu about it. It's hilarious. Well, it's terrifying. Hilarious,
Or there's
though.
a trial ongoing if you want to watch it. The former COO is on trial right now. The CEO's already been convicted. Her sentencing is not until September, as of 20 right now.
I'm going to go 15 years. Nikola is still happening right now. Talk about sentencing. This guy's trial is in 3 months. This is still a company. We have a whole video on this. I don't want to get anyone pissed off. I do a little bit.
Yeah, I do.
They're terrible. So,
Yeah, roll a truck down a hill. We'll be fine.
just to also just other like quick things, like Wells Fargo like 2 years ago was signing up dead people for accounts to increase their numbers. Every like lender for houses between like 2002 and 2006 were just like blatantly breaking rules and caused a housing crash. I don't know why everyone thinks that like we're on a pedestal and that there's no risk for us. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, people often forget how much risk and fraud can be brought in the market. So even Enron at the time was Arthur Andersen, their accounting firm was considered like one of the big four most trustworthy, reliable, largest like accounting firms in the world. All right, they no longer exist because of the Enron scandal, but they were the top four dogs.
Solid. So Just to summarize, foreign investment would be a thing of the past if China delisted. All private firms would immediately pull out of China, which is way more than 1.4 trillion. You have other, tons and tons of equity firms in this. And on top of that, investors in China, along with the entire Chinese economy, would be crippled overnight. Their entire plan of having a self-sufficient and world-dominating economy would just be dead. Everyone pulls out, not just America. Every country on the planet pulls out of China investments. I don't understand why people are so afraid of this. Now, if you like bring up like little like micro cap companies, like a $500,000 company, yeah, they might delist. Just like what is it? Blockchain Long Island iced tea company in New York, who just put blockchain in their name, made millions, and then got delisted because they didn't have anything to do with blockchain. They just want more money. Like it happens every day.
Oh, that $100 million New Jersey deli. Actually, they just had an announcement this week. They're merging with a, I think it was a recycling plant, like a precious metal recycling business.
Yeah,
remember that?
Vinny did a great video on that. It's a $100 million deli that sells like 50,000 a year. Like the amount of scandals and crap that people just completely overlook because it's America makes no sense to me at all. I don't know. It's just absolutely wild.
Like, I'm not someone that like really hangs my hat on this, but there's been an argument made that in part this is like basically like racism, like that people just don't trust them because they're not us.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I don't stand behind like things that they do. Like right now, they're like straight up snatching civilians for quarantine centers. I don't agree with any of that. I just think I can make a lot of money on Baba. That's it. That's my whole point. Yeah. It's a solid company producing, like with a price to the cash flow. There's literally not one company on the market that has that good of a deal. Makes no sense. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. It's been largely overblown, but yeah, people are funny. They have short-term memories when it comes to this stuff. Another one that's always interesting to me is MicroStrategy. People that are kind of like big crypto enthusiasts, MicroStrategy, it was largely a consulting firm that has pivoted and now owns like a fair amount of what do you call it, Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies on their balance sheet. I think it was like over $8 billion worth. They are actually consider the company that triggered the dot-com bubble bursting back in 2001, where they had to restate several quarters of their finances because they also had been engaged in just basic out accounting fraud at that point in time. But they
Solid.
still exist. And, maybe with this $8 billion in crypto on their balance sheet, they're headed towards another blow-up episode where they can trigger a wave of defaults. So we'll see. MSTR is their ticker, by the way.
I didn't even talk about crypto. That's a whole different deal. All right, guys, let us know if you think this is overblown or if you completely oppose everything me and Vinny said. So have a good one.
Yeah, catch you in the next one.